Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the D Geopolitics Show. I am your host, Sarah. Maybe fortunately, depending on how you look at it, Chris is traveling today. So I am joined by our wonderful guest co-host, David Reilly from The Backlash, which you guys all know. I don't need to introduce again. Today, we're obviously going to get into the craziness that is going on in the United States. Guys, don't forget to like, share, and follow the stream, as well as David on YouTube and Twitter. We dropped some new merch this week. We'll be dropping some more as soon as I get the sweatshop workers to get making those designs. Also, I just want to take a moment to say rest in peace to someone who probably changed my life. Definitely changed my life. Professor Michael Parenti. We did I wrote a tribute to him. It is on our Substack. Thank you all for subscribing. We've recently seen a surge in the Substack subscribers. But I can't really help but think about how serendipitous it is that Michael Parenti, someone who was constantly talking about us backsliding into fascism or authoritarianism, passed away this week. The day that Alex Preti was murdered in Minneapolis. So, but first, I want to welcome our guest for today, which I really want all of his opinions, and I'm really excited to see the two of you kind of tease these out. So he's been on before, as you guys have seen. Wonderful, wonderful Daniel McAdams. I messaged him yesterday, like, everything is horrible. Would you like to come on the show? He was like, sure. So we're all here together to kind of, I guess, misery loves company or something. But how are you? How are you both? And how are you both kind of doing with kind of what's going on?
I'm just trying to chill out because I've been pissed off for like 24 hours straight. And I don't know. I just turned away from X. I've got to stay away. I am so mad at everyone. This is not healthy.
Yeah, there's been a lot of rage baiting going on the timeline for sure, trying to get people upset on both sides. And I'm staying out of it, man.
I am definitely staying out of the rage bait. I'm not even really joining into the nuanced discussion because I don't know that it really matters. The who killed who and the what's and all of that. But I think we'll get into that in a little bit. First, I do want to just go over really quickly, not too long, but the new NDS, which I thought was kind of sorry guys, this isn't a Word document because I couldn't get the PDF to do what I needed it to do. But I recommend that you all do read through this NDS that just came out. There's a lot of, I've noticed the phrase burden sharing is littered throughout this thing. It's all over it, talking about sharing this sort of burden, increasing burden sharing with our allies, supercharging the industrial base, the new golden age. A lot of that language throughout the thing. I was wondering, did either of you get a chance to read this and kind of tease it out a little bit? It goes through this sort of blame game, talking about everything for this administration is like a campaign opportunity, whether it's Davos or writing a policy. So the intro is just them kind of trashing the old regime and saying, we're not really on the precipice of World War III. The interesting shifts come when they start talking about Russia and they say, we acknowledge that Russia is the biggest threat to Europe, but you're kind of on your own. We're going to go back and focus on our sort of our hemisphere. We've done Operation Midnight Hammer. Israel is the model ally. North Korea is not really a threat to us. It's only really a threat to South Korea, and that's sort of your problem. Also, it had the Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine, which is, after years of neglect, the Department of War will restore American military dominance in the Western Hemisphere. We will use it to protect our homeland and our access to key terrain throughout the region. We will also deny adversaries' ability to position forces or other threatening capabilities in our hemisphere. This is the Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine, a common sense and potent restoration of American power and prerogatives in this hemisphere consistent with Americans' interests. This feels like a big cope to me.
The whole document to me just seemed like one giant Trump glazing session. Honestly, it didn't really even seem like there was ideology behind it. It was more or less just trying to ex post facto justify the things that Trump has done and try to put it in a coherent packaging that can be sold to the MAGA base as this is what America First looks like in action. And I would seriously doubt that it is America First. I mean, again, a lot of the stuff that we've been seeing going on, Operation Midnight Hammer in the Middle East, the stuff in Syria, the potential new incursions into Iran. This is about the Jews. This is about Israel. This isn't about America First. And there's been a lot of argumentation back and forth about, Venezuela. Is this actually going to be benefiting the United States? I mentioned on my show a couple days ago that, I went to the gas station the day that they did the op on Maduro, and gas was $2.18. Last time I checked, it was like up in the 230s. So gas is up 8% since we've struck Venezuela and kidnapped Maduro, or whatever you want to call it. So I'm not really seeing positive stuff come out of there. And yeah, it's interesting. There was a lot of stuff about Russia, Ukraine, China. And this Taiwan stuff is going to be heating up over the next couple of years. But I don't know. It just seemed like a giant Trump glazing session.
And a lot of finger wagging. Like, you didn't spend your money right. Like, we know that Russia is the threat to you, but you're spending and your armies dwarf Russia. So if you spent your money right, you wouldn't be in this situation. It was very interesting, but they're kind of leaving Europe with the bag. What are your thoughts, Daniel?
I mean, you guys are such naysayers. I mean, when I read this next line, I felt so much better. The department's priority in Africa is to prevent Islamic terrorists from using regional safe havens to strike the U.S. homeland. I mean, didn't you guys realize that Nigeria is about ready to nuke us? Somalia is firing up the ICBM. So when I read that, I just said, thank you, Daddy Trump. Appreciate it. But somewhat more seriously, I mean, it's not a serious document. You talk about Trump glazing. I get that, but to me, it felt more like Hegseth. You could almost feel Hegseth in the language. Unbelievably superficial. That's Hegseth. Everything is performative. Everything is, I'm a tough guy. You're fat. I hate you. That's him, and that's what the whole thing sounds like. And I actually just did a word search. And I read the whole thing, but I didn't pour over it. Reminded me of the national security strategy, very superficial. But I did notice that 10 times using the peace through strength, 10 times, as if repeating, we can somehow recreate the era of Reagan defeating communism. All this mythology of America's past and all this glossing over of its current. But you nailed it, Sarah. The thing that struck me, and actually, I wasted time before I should have been studying it, because I had to post on X this: Israel is a model ally for the U.S. That's all you need to know. That if that's the case, then that's all someone who sucks us dry, infiltrates our Congress, forces every single member of the House and Senate complete fealty to this foreign country, and guts us in a bunch of wars. If that's a model ally, we need to pack it up and go. There's no future.
It's really crazy. And we're going to talk about Israel. Oh, the new pipe. Oh, look at you. Look. Oh, now we're like really a high-end show.
I'm just trying to get a tobacco. I'm trying to get a tobacco sponsor for the podcast. So.
Okay, well, that's the way to do it. Let's jump right into it. The ICE. I don't even know what to call it, but I want to give a little bit of background to this, because we went over this about a month and a half ago. We went over the NSPM 7, which our viewers might remember. Kate, we talked about it simultaneously when we talked about the Pam Bondi thing. But the interesting thing about the NSPM 7 is it tells you like who's getting labeled as a domestic terrorist and what are the indicators of violence. And that list is quite interesting. And, anti-Americanism. Okay, we don't really understand the definition of that. Anti-capitalism. What does that mean? If I'm against the Walmart being built in my neighborhood. Anti-Christianity. I'm reading that as anti-evangelical Christianity. So anti-Zionism. So this sort of, these sort of wishy-washy things. And then this other thing on the right is from a lawyer who says, we cannot predict exactly how the memo will be implemented or provide legal advice on specific questions regarding this because nobody even knows how it will be used. This came out shortly after the murder of Charlie Kirk, which was very interesting. This NSPM 7 also created joint terrorism task forces, which would investigate, prosecute, and disrupt entities inside of the United States. I don't know if these are sort of up and running yet, but I'm guessing that this ICE operation is part of that rollout. Then we have Pam Bondi's memo that came out on December 4th. I think it was leaked out probably on purpose, which sort of reiterated the same thing, but then it went further to define what domestic terrorism is, which included, it was the implementation plan for the NSPM 7. So that included doxing of law enforcement, rioting, violent efforts to shut down immigration enforcement and targeting of public officials, et cetera, et cetera. In this memo, this was where she ordered the FBI to compile their lists and to get the federal agents to start reviewing files. So all of this is going on, and then I have this clip of she might be my favorite character of the administration, Border Patrol Barbie.
Secretary,
yes.
The White House has labeled the man who was killed in Minnesota as a domestic terrorist. Is that something you agree with? And have you seen any evidence to
when
back
you
up that claim?
perpetuate violence against a government because of ideological reasons and for reasons to resist and perpetuate violence, that is the definition of domestic terrorism. This individual who came with weapons and ammunition to stop a law enforcement operation of federal law enforcement officers committed an act of domestic terrorism. That's the facts.
This is crazy. This is very, and I want you two to comment because you guys are 2A and 1A people.
Well, she's literally the cop from Idiocracy, isn't she? Okay, this particular individual, I need to ascertain. I mean, that's exactly what she is. What an absolutely vapid character she is.
Right away to the domestic terrorist label. That's a really crazy label.
I'm probably going to be on a little bit of the other side of this thing than you guys. I'm aware of some of the issues with ICE, the Israelicization of American policing, I'm against the militarization of the police force and all of this stuff. But after the past, 10 years of me being labeled a domestic terrorist, fuck you. How does the shoe feel now that it's on your foot? That's kind of how I feel. It might be a little bit different. This was in relationship to this Jewish guy that got murdered yesterday.
He's Italian, David. He's not Jewish.
Look at the picture. Pull the picture up.
I mean, he literally looks like my cousin Lou.
I don't know. It's possible. I haven't looked too deeply into it. But look, my Judar was going off on the guy, but what is going on here with these people? Tim Walz and all of these people we're seeing now, there's these text messages coming out showing that there are members of the Walz administration coordinating some of these anti-ICE protests on the ground. And they're feeding these people into the meat grinder. I'm less pissed at ICE for shooting Renee Good and shooting this other guy than I am at people like Tim Walz and the administration in Minnesota. If we can go black bag Maduro, why can't we black bag these people? Why can't we get someone who's going to tell people to stay home and, de-escalate the situation? I don't understand why both sides of this seem to be attempting to instigate essentially a civil war. I don't get it.
That's that. We'll get in more into the both sides thing. I think for this, I'm more concerned with Christina because I'm not like sitting here, because I mean, I've been labeled, not that I've been labeled a domestic terrorist, but I've been labeled close to it. But I'm not sitting here saying, well, how does it feel to be labeled domestic? I'm more like, I'm a close second or third after these people, after they're done labeling these people domestic terrorists. Because I'm probably in the anti-American category.
Oh yeah.
And I'm definitely in the anti-evangelical Christian category. So that's kind of where I see it. And so that's why I worry about, that Kirsty Noem saying, he's a domestic terrorist. We're talking about a person that was, for all what we can see as of now, is that they were exercising their First and Second Amendment rights. And she's saying that doing that simultaneously actually makes you a domestic terrorist. That's scary.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
even Patel said the same thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Kash Patel said the same thing. I mean, it's hilarious to watch these right wingers, all of these so-called influencers, all of a sudden say the Second Amendment. Man, I don't want any of that. It's they've become a parody of themselves. The left says, why does any person need to have a military style AR-15 weapon? And now the right is saying, why does anybody need to bring a gun to a protest? You should be able to bring a gun wherever the hell you want. I mean, during COVID, we right wingers brought our guns to church. We brought our guns to mass because we were ready to defend our right to the First Amendment, our right to worship freely with our lives if necessary. So what is up with the right wingers now all of a sudden licking the government boots? I don't get it.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, and it's not just COVID. We still carry at my church, we're looking at what's going on in Minnesota. Don Lemon storming the church last week. And, everybody at our church is like, all right, you're still packing, right? Yeah, absolutely. Because God knows how this is going to spill over. But, it is really wild to see the 180, especially from Cash and from all of these people. But, still, we've got Antifa people that are in the streets whipping people up. They're on TikTok talking about, hey, this isn't a protest anymore. Bring your guns. We're going to start going after these people. The heat is getting turned up. It's not good. I'm not pleased with how any of this is going. I'm of course in the camp where I want 20-40 million people deported from this country, people that are here illegally. But why are we doing it in such a theatrical way that is antagonizing the left, that is drawing this type of confrontation? Why aren't we going in at 3 o'clock in the morning with no knock warrants and getting these people in the dead of night, as opposed to making some big scene about it and hyper edits on TikTok to, amp up Kristi Noem and DHS? This should be done in a stealth way, in the same way that Barack Obama was doing it. And to be, fair to Barack Obama, I guess he deported more people in his administration than Donald Trump has so far. For all of the show and the fanfare and the fireworks that have been going off, it's like, I actually care about getting these people deported. I would rather not be stoking a civil war in this country. That's my 2 cents.
I feel like that's the point, is to stoke the civil war. And that's why, or at least some sort of mass discord, because that's one of the reasons why I just can't get behind supporting any of it. Because I'm like, I'm not going to be a protester, and I'm definitely not going to be supporting ICE, because it seems like the violence and the divisiveness is the point. I don't know. But then, so you mentioned Tim Walz. So obviously the clip went around where Bondi's like, I worked really hard on this letter. I don't need to play the clip again. It's so enraging. She works very hard on the not Epstein files. But regardless, she writes this letter to Tim Walz. And I think it's borderline extortion. Now, I don't like Tim Walz. I think he's like he's not even a bag of mashed potatoes. Like, he's like just blah. Like, he's just so, I don't even know. But Bondi writes this letter, and in it, so there's some interesting things. This thing is called Operation Metro Surge, which I thought was interesting. Why does it even have a name? I don't know why it's called an operation. Then she gets upset about the rhetoric being used. Trump's modern day Gestapo, they're being called, and that people are saying that they're under attack by Nazis. that the results of these things, this rhetoric and the policies, it is a national tragedy. It's resulted in a national tragedy. The lawlessness in the streets is matched by the unprecedented financial fraud occurring on your watch. And the out-of-control fraud in your state also implicates election security. It is a tragedy that Americans have lost faith in Minnesota's ability to keep its taxpayers' funds secure and its citizens safe. Then she has 3 demands. She gives a list of demands. The first one is to share all of their records on Medicaid and food and nutrition service programs. 2 is to repeal the sanctuary city policies they have in place. And 3, the most important one that I thought was bananas, is to give them access to their voter rolls. So Americans are getting killed in the streets so they can have their little political war with the Democrats.
Well, the purpose of the whole thing, of course, is to foment a kind of civil war where the right hates the left and the left hate the right. And meanwhile, in the midst of hating each other, you don't realize that an absolute surveillance national security state has been constructed all around us. And as long as we think the other guy's going to get it worse than us, then we're out there cheering like a bunch of idiots. Well, when the panopticon comes, it will have its sights out for all of us, and there'll be nothing left. It's like it's like the great scene from A Man for All Seasons, Thomas More, where he said that he asked his interlocutor, would you tear down all the laws to defeat Satan? And he said, yes, but when Satan turns at you, when there are no laws left, then you'll have nothing. And I'm doing a bad job of paraphrasing, but that's essentially what's happening.
Go ahead, David. Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say, I don't understand, if the Department of Justice was able to systematically go after all of these people that were present at January 6th, if they were able to have their tentacles in the Charlottesville discord and all of these other ways that the right wing has been organizing over the last 10 years with constant total surveillance on us, how is it possible that these leftists are evading that kind of federal scrutiny? How is it possible that the FBI and the police are unable to disrupt their communications before they go in the street and present for an armed conflict with ICE? Why is this being allowed to happen?
Because the people are the people in the administration are incompetent. We saw it with Dan Bongino. We've seen it with Kash Patel, Pam Bondi. These people are incompetent. Pete Hegseth is incompetent. The first thing he did was install a makeup studio in the Pentagon. These people are all about preening, all about how things sound, all about Operation Midnight Hammer. This is what it's all about. It's an artificial edifice. It's literally a Trump Tower where everything looks golden and you rub it a little bit and it turns out it's completely fake. It's bullshit. They can't do this because they are incompetent people, and that's the problem.
Yeah, that's scary. That's the scary part, because we're basically, the administration is baiting the left into a civil war. I think Tim Walz, there was a clip I saw circulating a couple of weeks ago where he said, we've never been in an armed, a conflict with the federal government or something to that effect. And it's just like, time out. What the fuck? We're gonna kick off a civil war, and you people aren't going to be there to back it up. And the left is then going to go around and they're just going to start executing MAGA types. People that are out there, they're posting on Twitter, I support ICE, I stand with ICE, whatever. You're making yourself a target for these armed Antifa people to go and pop you. It's incredible. And by the way, there was it was called as far as operational language or titling an operation domestically. When the FBI and the U.S. Marshals went after the Weavers, that was called Operation Northern Lights.
That's so
they've been engaging in this kind of titling these types of operations for a very long time.
And I just feel with all of the surveillance that's going on, just like you said, what is Antifa? They don't know where this Antifa is. like what is being allowed to happen and what is being encouraged to happen and what is even real and what's kayfabe. Like the guy on the TikTok video saying, I'm Antifa. I was like, that's a fed.
Yep.
Like, what are we doing here?
Yep. Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's amazing. And there were other videos too that I saw of people in Minneapolis, you know, that are on the streets in front of the cops, shouting about guns, shouting about armed conflict. And it's just like, what planet are you people on? And then, of course, you know, because I'm a right winger, because I've got a little, you know, we've been abused over the past decade. You know, I sit there and I watch this and I think to myself, how is this guy not getting handcuffed and put in a straitjacket immediately?
Exactly.
If I said anything remotely close to that, I mean, for God's sakes, I got reported and investigated by the FBI for having a rosary rally to pray against the homosexual gay parade in Coeur d'Alene 3 years ago. They reported me to the FBI for praying. And these people are out here talking about armed insurrection and nothing's happening. They're being allowed to organize. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it should tell you everything you need to know that they're being allowed to do this. Why it's happening in Minnesota.
Yeah, it's gonna, you know, all this, you know, we're gonna see it any minute now. All of these cops. We need Palantir. We need total mass surveillance. We're going to need gait analysis, and you know, one of the things that we're seeing here in Idaho that's happening is they just introduced a new law. It's up for debate and a third vote in the House of Representatives tomorrow morning at 11 a.m.
Spoiler alert.
To criminalize wearing a mask. So we went from you have to wear a mask 5 years ago with COVID to now if you wear a mask, you're going to be liable to be sent to jail for a year and fined up to $2,500 if you commit an act of hate speech against Israel. That's what's going on in Idaho. So, you know, it's coming.
Well, I know Dan has to go soon. So, Dan, did you have any thoughts you want to leave us with or anything?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I have to depart. We originally were going to talk an hour earlier, so I apologize for that.
That's my fault.
I would just caution, you know, I mean, yeah, we were kicked in the balls for a long time by the left, but I think it's a bad idea to say, okay, now it's our time to kick you in the balls because both of our balls are going to be hurt and the state's going to be laughing its ass off. So that's what they want, you know. If you look, I mean, Lenin was, in my opinion, a genius, but after him came decades of incompetent idiots who the only thing they knew was the use of force. The same was true in this much shorter Third Reich. You had people who were morons and thugs. They couldn't run things. They were the Pam Bomdies of their time. But the only thing they knew how to do was to use extreme force to keep the people in line. So I think in many ways, the right and left are doing exactly what the state wants them to do right now, and it'll end up badly for both. So I don't want to be the turd in the punch bowl here and leave with such a negative view, but unfortunately, well, you know, we'll see what happens. So I appreciate coming on, and again, I'm sorry that I have to bug out early.
Blame David. Thanks, David.
Yeah.
Good to see you again, David. Great to see you, Sarah.
Soon, Daniel. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks. Take care.
We don't want hurt balls, David.
No, we don't. But
all
that's
right,
where this is leading.
Speaking of hurt balls, this is why I think this is funny. I think this is a lot of kayfabe, and I think this is a lot of both sides playing us. And there's another reason why I think this is because we just went over that letter to Waltz, and then she says, you know, stop calling us Nazis. You're kind of inciting violence. Then don't look like this.
Are the agents who were involved still on the job?
Yes, they're. These Border Patrol agents are going to more than likely be on administrative duty, but they will remain Border Patrol agents. Yes.
What does that mean? So they'll be off the streets for a bit?
Not in Minneapolis, they will, but only in Minneapolis here. They'll be at a different location.
With respect, it feels as though in some ways you're blaming the victim here.
The victims are the Border Patrol agents. I'm not blaming the Border Patrol agents. The victim are the Border Patrol agents. The suspect put himself in that situation. The victims are the Border Patrol agents there.
It's the cruelty. It's like the shallow, unnecessary cruelty that makes me think that this is meant to be provocative. He wears the Nazi-esque coat. He does these weird like content creation things when they're out in the public in the streets. We played it. I think we played it in one of our streams where they like cue each other. He says to his guys, he's like, walk now. And then they walk and he's like, gas is coming in. It's very like theatrical. And I feel like this is sort of, I'm acting like a Nazi, and Pam Bounty's like, stop calling us Nazis. We're not Nazis. And it's like, it's all like, and then the left is doing their thing. And it's like, you know, it feels like a lot of theater is going, he doesn't feel like a real person to me. That's why
Yeah, you know, it's bizarre. And, you know, one of the things that I also wanted to comment on, and I'm not sure if you saw the video, but so they had, this guy was there, he was protesting, he had a gun on him. They took the gun out of his, I don't know if it was his holster or his pocket, wherever it was. And the gun itself, it was a SIG P320. And for, you know, being in Idaho, I'm a gun nut. And, you know, we all kind of are up here. But the SIG P320 is notoriously
dude, I don't
awful.
care, dude. I don't care about any of this. The cops don't know that he has a SIG. I don't care about any of this. This
what
is
I'm saying is when they took the gun out, the cop was holding the gun and the gun went off in the cop's hand. And then the cops fired on the gun.
Shot him 5 times in the back, dude.
Right. They heard the SIG go off. And the point is that the SIG has this manufacturing defect where it'll fire.
So now we're blaming SIG Sauer for ICE being retarded and trained by the IDF?
No, I'm not blaming that at all, but it's just like, holy shit, you know, like maybe if we had, you know, gun makers that were making better guns that wouldn't just go off when you're like holding it the wrong way. That's crazy.
Do we want to get more gun regulations, David?
No. I just, you know, I want gun makers to make better product, but you know, the thing with this is that these agents are just not trained. You know, we had a town hall up here yesterday with our sheriff and some of our elected officials, and come to find out that was it ICE? I think it was ICE. They've gone from having 1 agent in North Idaho to 16 agents in the past year, and they are not trained. The sheriff said that explicitly, that these guys have not completed the requisite training. They're not doing that many operations up here because they don't know what they're doing. They lack experience. And so I can only imagine what's going on in Minneapolis with these people that have just been hired. They've been brought in. They've got relatively zero training. They've been handed a gun, and they're being put into a situation much like was in Charlottesville between Antifa and the alt-right. Where you've got this hostile group of people, both sides are looking for a fight, and you know, they're out here shooting people. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. It's a fucking disaster for all parties involved. And you know, the real losers are going to be the people that wanted mass deportations. Because this is going to be used in the future to see we can't mass deport people because the Trump administration tried it and they just wound up murdering people and being a massive failure. So, you know, this is just not going well.
I also think there's a little bit of a trap going on here because they kind of allowed the kids, I'll call them the kids, to run rampant on Twitter and, excuse me, they've always ran rampant on Telegram, but on the other apps, kind of making their Hitler edits and like kind of romanticizing fascism and whatever. You know, Hitler was a cool guy and like doing their thing at the Hitler memes. And now the administration is leaning into the Hitler aesthetic. Yeah. They're saying things like homeland for the, you know, America's for Americans, one of ours, all of yours. That's literally like, it's very interesting. So they kind of like get to like trap these people that were kind of,
yeah, well, it's the Bronze Age pervert thing that's going on where they've been, you know, as opposed to like actually taking a look at like, you know, and I'm probably going to get you in trouble for this, but you know, David Irving's book, Hitler's War, they reveal the telegrams and the phone calls that Hitler did on the night of the night of Broken Glass. When Hitler found out what they were doing, he's like, stop this, stop. What the fuck are you doing? Like, everybody time out, stop assaulting the synagogues. Like, you know, time out here. He tried to pump the brakes on it. And it's like, when you read the actual history of what's going on, you get a much different picture of what was happening back then. But these Bronze Age pervert people are like, no, he was a genocidal maniac, and that's good, and now we're going to do it. And it's all in defense of Zionism. It's all in defense of, oh, look at how Bronze Aged and based it is to go into Gaza and massacre kids and massacre women and to totally destroy your enemies. So they've taken all of this World War II revisionism. They've dropped the revisionism and are just, basically promoting Hitler good and everything that you've been taught about Nazism. Yeah, that's true, and it's based, as opposed to saying, time out. Maybe things were a little bit different on the. You see what I'm saying? So it's not good. It's not good. I can't believe the administration is playing into this, and we're going to see crazy Antifa people that are going to escalate throughout the country because of this.
Or it just actually sets up the narrative to create an Antifa counter op. You know what I mean? You're like, well, if you want to act fascist, now we get to create the Antifa counter op.
Yep.
It's like a huge theater.
Yeah. And it's going to be Americans that are dead at the end of the day. It's not, it's not going to lead to mass deportations. It's going to lead to dead Americans. And all the while, Israel is going to be across the ocean, laughing all the way to the bank as they, institute their board of peace and develop these resorts on the corpses of hundreds of thousands of dead Palestinians.
And here's another example of this sort of performative cruelty. This is in Denver. They're leaving Ace of Spades business cards on people's cars after they abduct them. The Ace of Spades was a card that they left on the dead bodies of the Vietnamese, which is a war now we all understand was a mistake and that we didn't really win. I wouldn't say that I guess we could say we lost, but we definitely left with our tail tucked between our legs. It's just weird to start bringing back this old wartime imagery. And I think it's more like what you said, that sort of war is good, violence is good. It's like this Bronze Age testosterone ridden, like just violence for the sake of violence. There's a lot of that sort of going on in this. And I think that kind of plays into that. So the next thing is I got excited because I saw in the New York Times this article and it says Minneapolis and Gaza now share the same violent language. I said, oh my God, is someone going to do the thing? So we don't have to do the thing where we compare the IDF to the ICE and all the thing. And let's see how this works. But then I realized the article's Thomas Friedman. So I said, all right, well, I'll still give it a shot. Well, 2 paragraphs in. ICE is actually Hamas.
Oh my God.
Despite being trained by the IDF, they are exactly alike because they both wear masks. And they have that if you place, this is the best part, if you placed a photo of an ICE officer next to a Hamas militiaman in the news quiz, I would defy you to tell them apart.
What the fuck are we doing here? Oh
literally, this is the neocons, right? Because they don't want their precious immigrants gone.
Yeah.
So ICE is Hamas because the neocons are Jewish and they don't want their immigrants gone. I love examining all these different viewpoints and why they do the things that they do. But this is so neocon. This is such a Jewish neocon viewpoint.
Yeah. And, I think it would play directly into the hands of people like the mayor of Minneapolis, the Jewish mayor of Minneapolis. I feel like that would be a narrative that he would support. Geez, this is incredible.
Right? That's good. That's interesting that you mentioned that. I don't know about Jacob Fry's feelings on Israel, but yeah, that makes sense. Right? We can akin Hamas, and then we can get these sort of leftist Jews involved. They're like,
yeah, sure. The Code Pink people, maybe.
This gives them a reason to get involved, sort of, right?
Yeah. Unbelievable. And that was New York Times.
Yeah, of course, Thomas Friedman. So, I mean, we all know that ICE isn't trained by Hamas. They're trained literally by the IDF. So they have a field office there, as we all know.
Yeah.
So again, and this comes out this morning. This is what I wanted to get into is MTG. While you are being gaslit by the political industrial complex all over social media and the news telling you what you are supposed to be outraged about, think about this. Republicans funded the refugee program by nearly $6 billion of your taxpayer dollars in the DHS appropriations bill, even though you have been losing your mind about paying for refugee funding while you discovered all the Somali fraud. And the DHS appropriations bill funds all of Homeland Security, including ICE. Now, you have watched a shooting video probably over 30 times trying to figure out what happened while a near civil war is being fueled in Minnesota. But look past the hype and focus on the granular details. The DHS bill funds both ICE and refugee programs. The DHS bill funds doubling H-2B visas and deportations at the same time. Do you see how the uniparty in Washington funds both sides and then gaslights you and drives you to hate each other? It's all manufactured to drive your outrage. That is how they make money. When the American people stop being baited into fighting each other, the American people will defeat the political industrial complex that divides us all and can work truly to put Americans first. I looked into this bill and she is correct.
Wow.
$11 billion. $3.8 billion for custody and deportation operations, $85 million to hire additional officers. ICE gets $11 billion. CBP, the Border Patrol, gets $18.98 billion. $5.7 billion for refugees and entrant assistance, so to assist them when they come in. And then doubling the H-2B cap, the worker visa program, from 66,000. It's more than double, quadrupling it to 252,000, 282% increase. They've literally created a positive feedback loop.
Yeah.
We'll fund them to come in, then we'll fund the deportations. We'll fund them to come in.
I was going to say, this reminds me actually back to our first story talking about this new document that came out from Hegseth, because at the end of it, it talks about rebuilding the defense industrial base in America, right? So like we've been hearing a lot of talk about, we need to reindustrialize, and we do need to reindustrialize. We do need manufacturing back here in America. But what the administration is doing is focusing on guns, bombs, drones, Palantir, Anduril, all of these different industries, these military industrial industries. And it seems like that's what the administration is gearing forward and subsidizing and, looking to rehabilitate America's industrial base, as opposed to making actual useful products or phones, computers, things that we use here. We're not doing any of that. We're not doing, the chips. We're just going to invade Taiwan for that. No, we're just going to ramp it up, build bombs, industrial or militarize the police. It's unbelievable. I can't believe that they're funding both sides of this. Well, I can, of course, believe that. Holy shit. WMTG for bringing that out.
Right. And the only Republican to vote against it is Massey. Seven Democrats defected to vote with the Republicans for it. Mm-hmm. Now, what happens is now this is convenient, is that Alex Pretty is killed by ICE, and now the Democrat senators have their reasoning as to why they should not approve it, because it still hasn't gone through the Senate yet. That's where things get interesting, and that's why you guys may have seen these Polymarket and Kalshi 75. They're going up into the 80% chances that the government will shut down if the Democrats do not get this, or if this bill does not go through. It could shut down the government. Republicans are saying, but you promised, and Democrats are saying, well, things changed, someone got shot. And so that's where we're at. Plus, we're in the middle of a massive snowstorm, and the Senate won't reconvene until Tuesday to vote on Wednesday. So it's really interesting. And if that passes, it just creates an incredible feedback loop that can keep us all fighting each other for the foreseeable future.
Wow. Yeah, and of course, this is all also happening at the same time. I don't know if you saw just a couple days ago, Japan dissolved their parliament, and the yen carry trade, which essentially the United States has been using Japan as our piggy bank, that has blown up, and so that happening in conjunction with a government shutdown, that's going to be making things pretty tight. Things are going to get a lot hotter, I think. Jeez.
Yeah. So things are pretty interesting. I think that's all I have. I don't know. Let me see what else I have in here. Yeah, that's it. That's all. Oh, here's the protest. Protests obviously have broken out. So here is that.
We just have a few moments here, but it seems to be some smoke is rising. I don't know if these are smoke bombs. It was peaceful when we began to talk, and we noted that rhetoric really matters now.
I have done nothing at all! My name is Matthew James! Obadiah Allen! Get on the phone! I'm a United States citizen! Fuck you! Stop! Chill. I'm fine. I didn't even breathe anything. I'm just angry. I'm 7 years old. Fucking angry.
Unbelievable. Do you remember during the Tenet media scandal, there was a document that came out and it was written in Hebrew, and it was about, because at the time, Tim Pool was stoking the Civil War talk. Do you remember this? Mm-hmm. And there was a document in Hebrew that talked about how America falling into a civil war would benefit Israel. Because essentially with us fighting one another and with chaos here domestically, Israel would basically be able to pursue whatever they wanted when it comes to their Middle Eastern policy with Palestine and whatnot. And considering the connections with ICE, with the training that's been going on, with the convergence between the mayor of Minneapolis and all of this, it seems like they've put us on a road to civil war. And neither side is backing down. This is incredibly bad for this country.
Yeah. And and I'm looking at all of this, and I know a good bit about Minneapolis. My friend used to live there during the George Floyd stuff. It's obviously a very blue state, but it's, I think it's not as blue hair liberal as people think it is. It's more Dem sock than blue hair liberal. So I wonder why they choose Jesus. I wonder why they choose.
She's getting the call, folks. She's getting the call.
God. Oh my God. So they're right.
Write it down, Sarah.
Jesus, it scared the crap out of me. I don't remember what I was saying. There's so many immigrants all over, illegal immigrants. There's 4 million between the states of Texas and Florida alone. There's under 500,000 in Minnesota. You have to ask yourself, why exactly does all of this stuff happen in Minnesota? George Floyd happens in Minneapolis. This happens in Minneapolis. Another shooter another shooting in Minneapolis. There was also the Catholic schools shooting in Minneapolis, I believe. A lot of things happen in Minneapolis. You have to kind of wonder why, and why they're saying, we're not going to go into the agricultural sector. We're not going to go into the service sector. We're just going to go up and fuck with Somalis in Minneapolis. That doesn't, especially, yeah, exactly. In the freezing cold in the dead of winter.
Yeah. This is really weird. And it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, over the next few months, right? Because it's Minneapolis now, but where's it going to be next? Are they going to be, doing Portland. this kind of stuff in Portland or in, LA during the summertime? It really seems like, and then, God forbid, I've heard people, saying, that if it gets bad enough, if they stoke all of this kind of tension and civil war in the United States, is Trump just going to declare martial law, cancel the elections, and retain power this November? because that could be one path that they may be thinking of. I don't know. I don't know if that's too LARPy or if it's
I don't know either.
Candace Ovens tier, but you know, I've heard people float the idea, you know, so I'm willing to keep an open mind about where this is going, because again, remember, this administration is not actually America first. This administration is not being run by the American people. It's not even being run by, you know, the MAGA base that Donald Trump put into office. This is all being done by Israeli surrogates, by zogged up operators that, you know, care more about what's going on in Gaza, in Palestine, than they care about here. And, you know, they're getting incredibly rich and wealthy. This Donald Trump Board of Peace thing is just a giant money laundering op. It has nothing, you know, so dark times, you know, America is like getting rug pulled in real time.
It's really just sad. And that's why I kind of, I'm not a pro-immigration person by any means, but I just can't support anything that this administration does, because it's all under the lens of, like, who does this benefit, and you know, quid pro quo, and like, and how much money has Trump made, and it's always like a scandal. And you know, there's a woman called Lawyer Oyer. She's fantastic. She tracks all of the pardons that Trump is doing in secret. They total well into the billions of dollars. And it's just all so much kayfabe. And while this is going on, they're passing bills that fund both sides of the civil war, the civil discord and strife.
Yeah.
It's just, I can't get behind any of this, either side. I'm so much more anti-Democrat than I am anti-Republican, because they are the worst. They're so feckless. When they do finally get power back, they're not going to know what to do with themselves. So it's not even, these people think that we're going to vote our way out of it, or even dumber than the rest.
No, yeah, and that's why it's like, it's so important to get involved at a local level. It's important to cultivate a network around you that sees these things happening, that's going to be smart about how we go forward, and, you know, building structures, social fabric, things to make your community resilient, something that is actually in your control, as opposed to engaging in this. It's essentially like sports. It's reality TV politics. It's, you know, I like the Seahawks, you like the Eagles, and, you know, my guys are ice, and oh, my guys, it's Tim Walz. It's bullshit. You know, it's going to get Americans killed, you know, especially if you don't understand what time it is. This is not 2016 anymore. It's not 2017 anymore. You know, it's not the time to go out and protest and support ICE. It's not the time either to go out and be against ICE. You're going to get shot. These people are crazy. So, you know, watch and observe and build your own thing around your church, around your friend group. That, you know, stay out of this stuff. You're going to get hurt.
What do you think we should do then? Just local?
I'm a localist, you know. Yeah. I think that you know, the amount, and I guess it also, you know, it also kind of depends on what local means to you, right? Like if you're a guy like me, like a right winger that was, you know, for Trump in 2016, you care about reducing illegal immigration, but like you're living in the outskirts of Minnesota, I would get the fuck out of there. I would move to a place where the, you know, people like self-segregate, self-balkanize, you know, find places in the United States where you have a strong community, where you have, you know, the ability to send your kids to schools that you like, that'll teach them the right things. Find, you know, where you have a church that you can go to. You know, you if possible, I would, move out of the cities. I would get away from these places, because they're going to become hotbeds, especially as the weather gets warmer. You know, I really think that we're in for another summer of love. I could be wrong about that, but it's looking like things are escalating.
What do you think about internationally? Do you think that we just kind of hunker down and try to weather this Zionist takeover?
Well, internationally is super different. You know, I've got friends in England, Ireland, Austria, but I don't really know what's going on over there. You know, I mean, for sure, Poland is doing a little bit to kind of stand up to this stuff. We've seen videos of Grzegorz Braun protesting and doing some good stuff to bring awareness to what has been going on in Israel, and protesting at these European parliaments and whatnot. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I think if you're in Russia, you're probably better off. Yeah, I mean, as far as being in America goes, if you're in the cities, you got to be careful, especially if you've got a family. Especially if you've got a family and you're in a city, you got to seriously think about getting the fuck out. That's my 2 cents. That's what I did. That's what I did. Like, I was living in South Bend, Indiana, as these George Floyd riots were going off. And I remember waking up one morning and there was 500 protesters standing outside my window because the cops had killed a black guy 6 months before I moved into my apartment. They were having a memorial. And it's like, holy shit, like, and the way that these crowds are, even if they are a peaceful demonstration, the crowds can go nuts very, very quickly. They can get out of hand very, very quickly. So, if you're in a place that's seeing these kinds of demonstrations, man,
I don't know. See, I have to push back because I think about Europe, right? And Serbia. Serbia is, for instance, I was in Serbia when the tragedy struck, and an overhang fell at a train station, and it actually killed, I think, 13 people. And the entire country has been in protest since. That was over a year ago. Protests, huge, hundreds of thousands of people. And they said, we won't stop until we see the changes that we want. And then that's it. And I just, I don't know what else. I just feel like that we should show solidarity when a good one of our people, such as Alex, gets murdered. I mean, we're talking about a VA nurse, someone who cared for veterans. It's just like, I don't understand who needs to get killed before people feel bad. Do we all just need to just ignore what ICE is doing outside?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably like a little jaded with this, because I know people that got shot in the back of the head in Portland for wearing a Trump hat. Like, I want these Antifa people to be rounded up and locked up. I want ICE to be able to do their job.
Yeah, but Alex isn't Antifa. He's just a nurse.
Well, why was he out there?
Why not? Dude, everybody has feelings about this. I do too. Not enough to get me out there, maybe, because I'm scared.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are people that feel incredibly strong about this, especially when they're pulling people out of their neighborhoods. Especially, I would think that especially someone in the medical field would especially feel super strong about it because they probably know their neighborhood and their community.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I really can't speak to it. I haven't done any research on the guy's back. Like I said, I thought the guy was Jewish. I just saw one picture of him, and it was like, oh,
we should be
killing Jews. Like, what's going on here? Like, that's a narrative change. Okay, maybe they're going to shut ICE down now that he's killed a Jewish guy. So hey, I mean, maybe that explains that narrative a little bit. I don't know. I haven't done enough research into the guy's background, but I mean, I
don't think his background matters.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think that, look, I mean, I got to be honest. I think any of these people that are organizing these protests, they should get the January 6th treatment. I don't think they should
become streamers and paid buku bucks by Bibi Netanyahu after.
Well, yeah,
that's what January 6ers do. They're all out in the streets. The January 6ers are in Minnesota too. They're in Minneapolis.
Right, Jake Lang was out there, and I found out I did a stream with Christian Secor. He's a real January 6er. He's down in Huntington Beach. He's not doing he wrote a book.
Well, that's the thing. There's the real ones, and then you have, and that's the thing with this as well. And that just like that, we could be saying, oh, Alex could have been a real one. Like, I know people that went to Jan 6 that there's some of them in the chat that are real authentic people that really thought that they were there and they did it. They had the best of intentions and their hearts were in the right place and nothing about them was violent at all. Yeah. And that could be the same situation up there. There are people that are violent that are anti-ICE, but I can't say that. I can't say for certain. And I would shy away from saying that Alex was one of them. I would err on the side of being like he was probably there for the right reasons, just like a lot of people at Jan 6 were. And that we have these retard leftovers from Jan 6 that we still have to deal with that are still causing trouble. And the ones that went there with good intentions are scared silent or they're in obscurity.
Yeah. No, it's true. And yeah, man, this dude, the Jake Lang stuff is so fucking cringe. Like the nonsense that he's pulling in Dearborn, going around like, you know, insulting Muslims, doing the bacon in a Quran thing, trying to, you know, kick. And, you know, you can see very clearly he's trying to kick off a civil war up in Dearborn at the same time that all of this is happening in Minneapolis. You know, again, I'm very concerned that there are, you know, these types of foreign influences that want chaos in America to make America weak. And God knows how the Trump administration is going to capitalize on the thing, whether it be the Insurrection Act, whether it be martial law, canceling elections, suspending, you know, the economy or whatever. But it's not looking good.
Oh, and the report you talked about earlier with the Tim Waltz people, I would look into that because that was broken by Cam Higbee.
Yeah, right.
Came out of Israel, straight out of Tel Aviv.
Yeah, you know, and that's
the thing. You don't even know. You're like, that's why I'm like, I can't formulate opinion or choose a side because I have to sift through everything and figure out even what's real and what's not on both sides.
Right. It's incredible. Yeah, there's like no independent journal. And we talked about this the last stream that I was on with DD Geopolitics here. But the Somalian fraud thing, that turned out to be a whole Israeli op too. You know, they were the ones. It's like, how is a 64 IQ Somalian figuring out how to defraud the government? Oh, well, actually, it was this like elaborate money laundering scheme that was devised by like Israel to help their friends in Somaliland, which is like what, that you're going to like deport Palestinians to Somaliland or some bullshit? Like, come on. The whole thing is just, it's unbelievable. And we live in this like choose your own reality at this point where you've got people on the one side that are just picking, you know, ICE did no wrong. You've got people on the other side that are ICE are Nazis. And the truth is dead. The truth doesn't matter. No one's getting to the truth of it. It's all narrative.
And exactly. Even look at the left-wing influencers, Ed Krasenstein, talking about like, it's okay if white people die. And then at the same time, like bending over whatever backwards so him and Elon Musk are fighting. It's like, it's all over the place. It's every influencer. It's on both sides.
Yeah.
David needs a little time in our space. He comes to our spaces.
I do. I've been busy this week though. It's been a crazy content week.
It has been a crazy content week. But anyway, I will let you get back to your Sunday with family. But
thank you.
Tell everybody where they can find you. You don't stream on Sundays, yeah?
Generally, no, I don't. But I'm breaking the rules for you. But we stream on Mondays and Wednesdays, and very soon, I think I'm going to be doing a solo show on Fridays. But you can find us at thebacklash.net. Thebacklash.net. We're on X, we're on YouTube, we're on Rumble, we're all over the place. We've got Pete Quinones coming on the show tomorrow on Monday. We're going to be talking about, of course, all of this ICE stuff. We're going to be talking about the movement, the right wing, and what's, you know, how to prepare. He's, of course, an expert on the Spanish Civil War. So I feel like that is incredibly
random
prescient.
thing to be. Yeah, what an awesome thing. Like nobody's an expert on that.
Yeah, no, he is.
Fantastic.
And so, that'll be tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, thebacklash.net.
Everybody make sure you tune into The Backlash tomorrow. Make sure you go to ddgeopolitics.com. There's also G shirts on there. There's cool stuff on there. It's not all Trump, I promise. And we'll be back on Wednesday. I think Chris will be back. I might do a Tuesday night sneak stream with Syrian Girl. We'll see how that goes. But otherwise, I'll see you guys on Wednesday afternoon. Have a blessed Sunday, and we'll catch you guys next time.